problem, Psyman down.
Oh, he's triggering me. He's vexing me.
Look at that.
I see it.
He's watching you.
Anyway, like, so you've gone to the trouble of doing this experiment, and I appreciate the effort that you're putting into it. But from my perspective, this experiment lacks resolving power in distinguishing between different geometries of the equipotential surface. Using your results, you cannot tell if the equipotential surface is planar or spheroidal or some other weird shape just on these results. You need something like a straight line that is going to pass through each of these levels. So a laser or something like that you can get to shine exactly through each from the first of your levels to the third of your levels, coinciding with the top of the level in between. If you can do that, then you've achieved something remarkable. There are multiple ways of explaining it. You need to be able to do this everywhere in order to show that the geoid is flat.
Yeah, we're going to be doing our test all over the place, Tony. Do you want to come and scream at us when we're doing it next time?
So, I would love to. They would put out in return for 3 nails, right? 3 nails was enough to buy basically a hooker.
What kind of geometry do you draw compass from?
All kinds of geometry, because I understand all kinds of geometry. Thank you for asking the question, though. Well done, you.
I got your numbers right here. It's just as easy as 1, 2, 3. You have to open your mind.
How about you shut up and listen for a second, and you might learn something.
Imagination is all you need. Don't take advice from fools, 'cause everything that they say is in vain.
How about you shut up and listen for a second, and you might learn something.
Never take advice from fools. We all know what they do is in vain.
Even while I'm tired, I'm at least not fucking stupid. That's the comforting element of this. At least while I am exhausted, I know basic fucking geometry.
Everything is relative to you. You just have to say it in generalities. Just like those straight lines are curving.
Basic fucking geometry.
Drive down the road, don't you ever swerve.
Yeah, we can call it,
I don't know.
cranky old man goes ape shit.
All of this goes. Never take advice from fools, 'cause everything that they say is in vain.
Basic fucking geometry.
Never take advice from fools, 'cause everything that they do is in vain.
Not responding to whoever this fuckwit is. I don't care who this fuckwit is. Don't answer his questions. Gravity caused the effect of gravity.
Yeah,
Feel free to come in and urinate over it, you fuckwit.
I know the game that you're playing, and I know exactly what's on your
Basic
mind.
fucking geometry.
You got your playbook, it's alright. Your model dictates what you will find, and I don't know
Basic fucking geometry.
where all of this goes. Don't take advice from fools, 'cause everything that they say is in vain.
Basic fucking geometry.
Never take advice from fools. We all know what they do is
So,
in
yes,
vain.
gravity caused the gravitational effect. Well done.
Wow, okay, great. Sounds circular to me.
I'm an arrogant freak. I told you that before, Bev. Were you not listening? I'm an arrogant prick. I understand that. But no. I haven't finished with the chronological techniques we've got. And I'm going to list them all because some fucking idiot is going to suggest that they're not reliable and we've got a bazillion of them. At some point in the future, somebody's going to come along and provide evidence that the seismic data is wrong. Well, until that happens, we're going to go under the assumption that it isn't, if that's okay with you. Right?
Yes,
and so
it's correct. Right? It's correct until it's proven wrong.
So how about, you pony up? Where's your evidence? Where's your data? And don't give me this shit about constructing a horizontal line. Talk to an engineer. The guys who get paid more than you do because they know more. Oh, can I take it from the silence that you don't have any evidence?
I can take it from the silence that I understand that you're bowing out of the conversation because you said to ask somebody else. You said to ask somebody else, so I will.
Is that a smart ass answer? Because it sounds like a smart ass answer.
He's asking you. So the conversation is over then. Yeah. Why don't you fuck off? You're not getting an answer to your question. Fuck off and ask somebody else who can answer it. One of the people who gets paid more than you do. Money talks and bullshit walks, mate.
I'm sorry. How do you know how much I get paid?
Tell me I'm wrong.
All right. Well, whatever.
Prove I'm wrong. I have logically deduced that you are not that highly paid.
How much money I make, dude? Come on.
I have logically deduced that you are not paid as much as the average engineer or architect or civil engineer.
Okay, so therefore you claim that and I'm not going to present any evidence for that. That's a logical fallacy.
What do they call those people?
I didn't claim that it was proof of anything. I'm just pointing it out. I'm not saying that I can conclude anything. I'm saying that you as an individual might be able to conclude that people who are paid more than you do have more valuable skills than you do. And perhaps you might like to listen to some of their expertise once in a fucking while rather than assume that you know everything.
Sure, I'll listen to somebody that's not a sophist. No problem.
Not a sophist.
What have I said that is sophistry?
Do you understand what sophistry is?
Sure, hold on a second. Let me go ahead and look at my notes. What you've said, that's sophistry. Hold on.
I don't think you've said anything that's been sophistry. That sounds like a bullshit claim.
Uses the art of rhetoric to convince others? Yeah, that's right, because that's what I've been. I've been incredibly persuasive and using the poetry of my imagery throughout this conversation to convince people and sway them on an emotional level that they should buy into what I'm selling. That's exactly what I've done because I am the picture. I am the picture of getting people to put aside their rational arguments and appealing just to their to their softer side. Yeah, that's
I would
me.
agree. I would agree.
I'm still waiting.
I would agree. Well said.
Field.
Very true. I would agree.
They're sniggering. They're fucking sniggering behind their fucking microphones. They're fucking assholes.
No, they are. I mean, but we knew that.
Oh my god, it's so bad faith.
Well,
you guys are so bad faith.
I'm still waiting for you to reconstruct a gravity field.
reconstruct a gravity field. You want to see a gravity field? Sure.
Yeah, please reconstruct one.
Okay. Do you want me? Can I use one that was reconstructed earlier, or do you want me to do it right now? Because I can,
I don't know.
I could. It'll take a few hours for me to reconstruct a temporal gravity field. But I can show you one that I can show you one that was generated. All right. Okay. Well, that's fine then.
You do realise you're asking for some sort of model there? Just provides you with another fucking model.
Yeah, he's actually asking for a real temporal gravity field. He's asking for like you to make gravity.
Well, what he's asking for is
construct a gravity field earlier.
Yeah, it's almost impossible. You can't make gravity.
Okay, well then why did he claim he could do it?
Because he's able to produce
we construct a model of the temporal gravity field.
Right. That's not what he's asking for.
That's your go-to.
You just keep shouting until you get your own fucking way like a little kid. Is that what you're doing?
Pretty much, yeah. Well spotted.
And then are you aware that you're repeating the same thing? Like you say the same word
Stop
like
being an idiot.
times.
Stop being an idiot. Stop being an idiot. Yes, I just repeat myself when people are trying to talk over me.
Do you think people that question things are idiots? Have you ever questioned anything yourself?
No, I think you're an idiot independent of your questioning of stuff. Yes, you.
You're an idiot for questioning Tony.
No. You see, you've got it wrong.
I'm looking for recreation.
You're not an idiot. You're not an idiot for questioning stuff. You're not an idiot. Okay, there's not one mechanism for doing science, right? Science involves multiple different mechanisms, depending on. I beg your pardon?
I'd say that's what you were saying earlier.
What?
There's mechanisms of science that you have.
Yes. What do you want to know about them? There are multiple mechanisms for doing science.
Does that have anything to do with you recreating gravity fields?
Yes.
Okay. I've got time. Go ahead.
So we have presented peer-reviewed studies. For instance, my specialty is
predicted peer-reviewed studies. Okay.
Produced. We produced peer-reviewed studies.
And who's we?
My group and I. I can refer you to the papers that I am primary author on, or I can. So what we do. Are you sure you want to know? Because I don't think you're actually going to understand the process.
It doesn't matter.
I'm willing to learn for sure. Go ahead and tell me how you construct gravity field.
For each mass element, we break the surface of the Earth down into ternary mass elements, which have a resolution of about 15 kilometers on a side. And then we construct these into primary mass cons. Now, depending on the distance between the mass element and the satellite mission, at the moment we're doing modeling for the GRACE follow-on satellite mission, which is the successor to the GRACE satellite mission. These missions consist of a pair of satellites who orbit the Earth, and they fire a laser backwards and forwards between them. It's the Gravity Recovery and Climate Experiment, GRACE. And you can look it up if you want, either on the NASA website or on the GFZ website. They fire a laser backwards and forwards between them, and from that range we can reconstruct the sensitivity of that range to mass distributions across the surface, and we calculate the partial derivatives of the range rate and range acceleration with respect to the mass elements, and then we use a least squares formulation using those partial derivatives to work out the amount of mass that is necessary in each of the mass elements to reconstruct the satellite trajectories that are observed.
Sounds fantastic.
Yes, it does, doesn't it?
Can you?
Yes, it does.
I would like to have a look at what you have there. Is there a way you could post a type of link or direction to that?
Okay, so
I'm not asking for like any direct thing. Something
sure. Sure. Okay. I mean, yeah. Let me just share my screen again.
What could I ask? What kind of assumptions do you have along with that?
So what we have is we assume a Newtonian formulation of gravity. We are given
is that the downward vector, straight down vertical? Yeah.
Yes, down is the direction in which gravity acts. That's
which
the
is
definition
perpendicular
of
to horizontal. Yeah.
Horizontal is more accurately defined as perpendicular to vertical, since vertical is the only thing that we can observe.
Apart from the water level, yeah? What, 2 points?
No.
Equal elevation, which are equal pressure at each end, which makes a straight line, which is level, which is why water level is actually called water level.
No.
Yeah.
No.
The original word meaning of level was level, until you guys got older.
Nope.
No.
Never was. Never was.
Says the person that was complaining about people going, okay.
So my speciality is called glacial isostatic adjustment. It involves calculating the deformation of the Earth in response to large changes in surface load, such as occurred during the various ice ages, right? So you get a big buildup of an ice sheet, it's heavy, it deforms the Earth, it pushes the Earth down, and then when you remove the ice sheet, the land rebounds. And this is preserved in paleo sea levels. In order to get that rock,
along with that.
What?
in order to get, well, it's still an ongoing process.
You've got a cup filled with ice water and it melts. It's the same amount of water in the cup.
Yes, this would be a grounded ice sheet, right? An ice sheet that's on the continent, right? You familiar with those?
Yeah, like Antarctica.
Yes. So 20,000 years ago, this may come as a bit of a surprise. They said, no, let me explain for the benefit of people. 20,000 years ago, there was a glaciation. North America was covered in ice, right? About 4 kilometers or 4.5 kilometers thick. Well, it's very difficult to explain the observations of a beach at an elevation of 1 kilometer without some sort of deformation process being involved. Don't you think?
How did you strap time to that?
What do you mean, how did I strap time to that?
Well, you've got something there and something there. You said, well, that's taken 20 years.
We've got...
Is that what you've done?
We use
20,000 years.
Geochronological techniques such as, and I shall list them, radiometric dating, and this takes the form of uranium, thorium, uranium, lead, rubidium, strontium, lutetium, hafnium, argon, potassium, argon. There's also, so that's radiometric. No. I haven't finished with the chronological techniques we've got. And I'm going to list them all because some fucking idiot is going to suggest that they're not reliable and we've got a bazillion of them. There's optical stimulated luminescence, there's thermally stimulated. This has got to do with determining the age of... because when the ice sheets are all bunched up like that, they exert a gravitational force on the oceans.
It sounds like...
And that pulls the oceans up towards the... how about you shut up and listen for a second and you might learn something. It pulls the
Okay.
oceans up towards the ice sheet and thus changes the equipotential surface that defines the geode. Also, there is mass being moved around in Earth's interior, and that changes Earth's gravitational field as well. And so there are these two gravitational effects that have to do with sea level and equipotential surface.
Sorry, I got a question. Is that pressure? Air pressure or something, yeah?
Equipotential, no. Equipotential refers to points with equal gravitational potential.
So the cause is the effect?
Again, try asking questions that are meaningful, and I'll make every effort to
make astronomical assumptions in order to follow.
No, you need to explain what effect you're referring to and what cause you're referring to. You need to define what it is cause and effect are referring to, because I've got no context from your question. Your question is just a meaningless sequence of words without you explaining in more detail what you mean.
So when I interrupted you, you were talking about the gravitational cause of whatever the fuck else you were talking about. So that's when
sea level change.
So, yeah, sea level change. So the
changes in gravitation
cause was the cause of the effect, or the gravitational effect?
Cause of what effect? Cause of what effect are you referring to? You're not making it. Okay, so yes, gravity caused the gravitational effect. Well done.
Wow. Okay, great. Sounds circular to me.
Gravity caused gravitational effect. That's not right.
What are you? How can it not be right? It's tautologically correct.
Gravity caused the gravitational effect.
It's logically circular.
Gravity caused the effect of gravity.
What?
Right.
So
that's the circular logic that I'm
this is why your question is meaningless. Are you trying to ask what causes gravity? Or are you trying to ask what are the effects of gravity?
The effect can't be the cause.
Right.
I didn't say the effect was the cause. I said gravity causes the effects of gravity.
Right.
The effect can't be the cause.
Okay.
I didn't say the effects of the cause.
You just said the cause of the effect then?
No.
Oh.
You guys have trouble with English, don't you?
I have a trouble with
Okay, if I punch somebody, right? Okay, that may cause a fight to develop. Okay, right?
Okay, calm down.
If I'm in a bar, if I'm in a bar and I'm being my usual dickheaded, if I'm in a bar,
don't project about okay. Just
okay,
can you
self-claimed.
All right, can I do it? So if I hit a baseball with a bat, okay.
Can you hit a baseball with a bat?
The uncertain. I can certainly hit a cricket ball with a cricket bat, but I haven't really played baseball. I thought that I would Americanize it for you, but it turns out that you can obstruct that as well. Sure, even though I was trying to fucking reach out and make this meaningful to you.
You're the cause. You're the cause of the cricket ball moving.
Yes, I am the chain. I have caused the cricket ball to deviate, but also the deviation of the cricket ball is the effect of me hitting it, right? So it's just a matter of changing. When you say cause and effect, right? What caused the deviation of the cricket ball? Well, I hit it with a cricket bat. What was the effect of hitting the cricket ball? Well, it deviated in it deviated in cause, right? These questions aren't really meaningful.
The effect of the grass moving was the ball hitting it.
No, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, the ball hits the ground, the grass moves. The effect of the grass moving was the ball hitting it.
No, the ball's already in the ground.
No, so I think you're relying on sort of linguistic sleight of hand there, because effect has multiple meanings, and you're using.
Can we say the ball is at equilibrium, sitting on the ground, and then you hit it?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so then
no. Well, that's not the image I had of what was going on. Normally, cricket balls are moving when they get hit, but whatever.
I don't know. Okay. So
no, they get bowled at you. Jesus, mate, do some research. This is why I started with baseball, because Americans don't know jack shit about cricket.
So
pissing me off.
Is a ball?
You can't hit a base. You can't hit a baseball unless the pitcher throws it.
Yeah. So is the ball sitting on the ground, or is it being thrown at you?
No. So the ball is being propelled at me. It is not being thrown, and I will thank you to keep such vile slurs yourself in future. That's a joke for all of the cricket. You're not allowed to throw the ball when you're bowling it. Your arm has to be reasonably straight as you deliver the ball, so you're not allowed to throw it. We call it bowling. If you think of 10-pin bowling and your arm is straight, and we call it bowling because we keep our arms straight, so you can't throw it.
That's just girls softball.
It is. It is. That's what we do overarm. Yeah, we do it overarm, and we are allowed to run while we do it. And we do get up to.
I'm teasing.
We do get up to speeds of 100 miles an hour at some points. So,
fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, so a ball is getting thrown at you. Then what happens?
And then it bounces on. Normally, it bounces on the ground. Normally, we hit it with a bat. Or if it's moving at 100 miles an hour, I am cowering in fear, and the ball goes wherever the bowler. I might get hit. Yeah, if it's going at 100 miles an hour, I might just get cleaned up by the fucking ball, and that's my fault. That's not a foul. I don't get to walk. It's my fault if I let the ball.
You know what? Can we just go back to the analogy of you punching me then? Because that's going to be way easier.
I was punching someone else. I was in a bar. Punching someone else. Okay. I was mouthing off, as is my want, and I threw a punch. Off you go, Terry.
Tony, I was going to say, the international class cricketers unfortunately can bowl a ball that quick that even with a helmet, players have been killed. Unfortunately,
yeah, even with a helmet, we had one of our best players actually got killed. Not even in an international game, in a domestic game, New South Wales versus I forget who it was, South Australia, but he just got hit in the wrong spot and it killed him. Just got hit on the back of the neck, and it killed him. Anyway. My punch, you can rest assured I am an old fat phoebe, and me throwing a punch is the most ill-advised thing in the world, and any construction worker is going to fucking flatten me. But let's assume that I threw a punch, right? And that caused a fight. Okay? I threw a punch and that caused a fight in the in whatever circumstance. Perhaps I was a chess club and I threw a punch and that was it. We was fucking on. We were at each other and, people were beating one another up. But I threw the punch and I caused a fight. What was the effect of my punch? The effect of my punch was that I started a fight, right? So cause and effect, asking me to distinguish cause and effect, it's not really that meaningful. Like the cause of the fight was my punch. The effect of my punch was the fight, right? It's just rearranging the words slightly differently. So this cause and effect, thing that that you seem to be so keen on doesn't seem meaningful to me, and I'm kind of a bit. I'm trying to be honest here. It's mystifying how I'm supposed to respond in any meaningful way, right? You ask it as though it's a gotcha question, and I'm just thinking, I don't know how you think that the answer is in any way meaningful.
Well, I mean, the way you explained that just now makes sense to me. But when you explain a conceptual thing, which I thought was space time, causing something, something conceptual causing something, and then the cause of or the effect. You know what I mean? That something conceptual.
Yeah, no, that's a perfectly valid question, actually, because I was talking about spherical stuff in conceptual terms, right? And I was saying, let's not assume that the Earth is spherical. Let's look at the geometry of spheres separately. Let's not consider the Earth. Let's just consider a basketball. Suppose I want to consider the distances between a basketball based on coordinates on the basketball. How would I go about it? And that's the sort of problem that spherical geometry is designed to answer. Spherical geometry was set up to answer that sort of question, just a general abstract question. But it turns out that the results we get from that conceptual answer actually work when we apply them in practice. So, for instance, have you heard of mutiny on the Bounty? Like there was a mutiny on a British ship called the Bounty, where Captain Bligh was thrown overboard.
I have heard of that.
So there was a mutiny. Basically, he was sent, I think, to actually observe some astronomical thing, but he ended up having to stay a long time in Tahiti. And the crew were, I'm going to go into the details of the story because it's more fun. It turned out that the crew worked out that metal was very valuable on Tahiti, and the Tahitian girls, who are in general kind of hot, actually most women are kind of hot after you've been on a naval vessel for 6 months, but I digress. They would put out in return for 3 nails, right? 3 nails was enough to buy basically a hooker. And they had to stay there for ages with fresh food, cheap women, and some of them built relationships or whatever, and they had to stay there for a long time. And then Bligh's gone, well, we've got our new orders, we have to fucking leave. And the people have gone, hang on, we're kind of enjoying it right here. Are you sure we can't stay? Anyway, push came to shove, and Bligh said, we're fucking moving. And the others go, I'd rather live on a tropical island where I can bonk fucking hot tropical women. And so there was a difference of opinions, let's put it that way. Bligh got cast adrift in a boat with a couple of other people. And he sailed off, and he sailed towards the nearest island, and they landed. And the locals worked out these people aren't in a big ship, they're in a fucking dinghy. That means that they're not really on the up and up with the authorities. They're not official representatives of the British government. Obviously they're outlaws. We can kill them, and it doesn't matter. And they killed one of the crew people, and Bligh said, okay, obviously stopping at islands is a mistake. So I need to get the fuck out of here to the nearest civilized city as quickly as I can. And he had to travel 6,700 kilometers to get there. But he had to work out how much food and water he had in order to make that journey. And he did that using spherical geometry, using the geometry of a sphere. He worked out what direction to sail in based on spherical geometry. He worked out where he was based on spherical geometry. And he worked out the distances that he had to travel in spherical geometry. And he made it 6,000 kilometers, more than maybe 6,400. Not exactly sure, but it was over 6,000 kilometers without touching land. without hitting land even once, because he thought that the locals would just kill them if he touched land. And he was using spherical geometry the entire way. And so we kind of think, based on experiences like these, spherical geometry works, right? There's no story where somebody navigated their way 6,000 kilometers using flat Earth geometry. And the reason for that is that if anybody tried, they'd die.
Are you sure that's not an autobiography?
You're not the first to suggest that I'm old enough to have been there, but sadly, no, I was not there for Captain Bligh's journey. I just read up on it because I hadn't quite realised. You often hear about Captain Bligh's journey. I hadn't realised that he hadn't done it, that he hadn't made landfall at all after that first island. I thought, he's in the fucking Philippines. He's in, Melanesia. There are islands all over the place. I thought he was stopping in for water and food and what have you. Turns out, no.
Wait a second. You just said that he missed where he was going, right?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay.
So he hit the coast of Queensland and then sailed north along that and across. But he got to the port that he was going to, yeah. And, I think they lost.
So using geometry, he was off by what, 1,000 miles or so?
No, he wasn't off. He knew exactly where he was at every point. He just wasn't. So one of the problems was that at the time that he was doing all this, naval charts weren't necessarily that up to date as far as places like Australia were concerned. And so, sort of he ran into if you can look him up on Wikipedia, they'll show you the course that he took. And
wait a second. Hold up. I'm hearing two different things. Like,
okay.
Yeah. So I'm hearing, so he was using spherical geometry only after he left? Is it? Or was he using spherical geometry?
He was using spherical geometry at every point during his journey. So up to the point where he got thrown adrift. But he got set adrift with navigational instruments detailed enough that he could find his way, and then he found his way over 6,000 kilometers with a limited amount of food and water, and he had to be fucking confident that he could do that. Jet fuel is one thing. Yes, you're playing with
so it wasn't perfect.
Pardon?
So it wasn't perfect on his way to his original destination.
No, it was perfect on his way to his original destination. He got thrown overboard because the rest of the crew wanted to bonk tropical women, and he didn't want them bonking tropical women, so they threw him overboard. And he knew where he was at that point, and he navigated successfully to where he wanted to go, which I think at the time was called Batavia. Maybe it's somewhere near Batavia.
Cool story,
it's in
bro.
Indonesia. Well, you can look him up. And we still have his logbooks. So we still have the positions that he was calculating every day, and the courses that he was calculating every day as he made his journey. So if you would like to refute the historicity of this sequence of events, but the same is true of everywhere. Like, just try looking at the series Air Crash Investigations, and if you look at it long enough, you're going to see that they're the way they look, the detail with which they look into these things, and the way air pressure works. We understand this pretty fucking well. And it's not a matter when a plane falls out of the sky, and they do it from time to time. It's not just a matter of turning up and going, oh, well, that's why it happened. No, oftentimes it requires a lot of investigation to work out what happened to a plane, and all sorts of different causes are considered. And so the response of the plane to air conditions, air pressure and humidity conditions. Was the plane on the right trajectory? I saw one plane crash in Brazil where the pilots accidentally entered 270 degrees rather than 2.7 degrees, and rather than going due north, they sailed straight west, which you would have thought that they noticed, given that they were taking off at about sunset. But apparently they completely fucking failed to, and they just flew directly west until they ran out of fuel and crashed deep in the Amazon. Well done them. It turns out that there was an important soccer game on that day between Brazil and Uruguay. A semi-final for the World Cup or something, or qualify for the World Cup or something like that. Anyway, they were maybe a little distracted and didn't necessarily pay attention. But they were also in a new plane that had a different way of entering headings. But there's stuff like that. There are navigational errors that are made by pilots. There are navigational errors that are made by sailors, and these things are looked into so that we can try. So and actually, NASA, the aeronautical thing, they do a lot of air crash investigation. They do a lot of developing of air crash safety mechanisms with their funding. So when you say that when people say all of their funding goes into faking space missions or whatever they say, well, actually NASA do a lot of work with aerospace, making air travel safer. This is something that doesn't get as much airtime as their space stuff, but they actually do a lot with the air industry to make air travel a lot safer than it used to be. We don't just sort of hope and guess when bad things happen. We try and do the best we can, and I'm sort of back and forth on this conversation. Some of these conversations seem to be genuinely constructive questions, and some of them, the cause and effect thing. I just think that that's an attempt at a gotcha question. I don't see that as helping anyone.
I'll set aside all the complete non sequitur stuff there. However, the original. I'm glad you got back to it. The original was what I perceived as the circular reasoning with cause and effect and cause. And you're saying,
Mm-hmm.
I think you're saying cause and effect of the cause are the same thing, which I think that's not necessarily the case.
Yeah. Okay. Well, could you come up with an example where it isn't?
Well, the effect, I don't think that the effect can be the cause.
Okay, so I'm not saying that the effect is the cause. I'm just saying that effect and cause are related concepts. Okay, so gravity causes the effects of gravity. Yeah, that hasn't really improved anybody's lot in life. Do you want to know the root cause of gravity? And you will hear people say, well, gravity bends space-time. And that's our current understanding of what's going, mass bends space-time, and in doing so it changes the trajectory. But the reality is that we don't know why mass bends space-time. We know that that's what seems to happen.
So I think where the confusion comes in, and like you said, people don't know for sure. It can't be necessarily proven that something that you say is physical can affect something conceptual, and vice versa.
Well, I mean, you need to be a bit careful here, because the ultimate drawback is obvious. The ultimate fallback is the observations. Okay, we have to go where the observations lead us, and that's the rule. If we observe something and we can't explain it with a simple explanation. We've got to go with a more complicated one. And the reality is that all of our simple explanations have failed.
I
right?
think even I'm sorry, just to interject real quick. I think even Einstein, I mean, it could be just a false quote or something, but if you can't explain it simply, then you don't understand it well enough. So to go super complicated,
I don't like that.
It's like, okay, Occam's razor then. So
okay,
is that better?
let's get Occam's razor right. Okay, because I often hear Occam's razor misquoted. I often hear Occam's razor misquoted as saying the simplest explanation is the most likely one.
Well,
and that's a misquote. That's a misquote, right?
Okay.
So the simplest explanation consistent with the observations is the most likely one. Right.
Is that that's where the quote then, or is that
well, he didn't actually put it in those terms. So Occam was actually trying to argue. William of Occam was writing in the 12th century, I think, like a long time ago. And he was trying to argue that the simplest explanation for everything is that God exists and God did it all. That's the simplest explanation, and therefore it's the most likely one. And
okay, well, that's not good. Yeah,
I kind of, he wasn't a modern scientist. He wasn't a modern philosopher. He wasn't expressing things in the way we would think about them nowadays. And actually, he was using a slightly different language.
Yeah, so let's take people's quotes in the past out of it. From my perspective, I think that if you can explain something simply, then why complicate it?
Okay, and the only reasonable answer is because the observations don't match that, right? And that's the thing that I've been trying to do with the seismic data and with the gravity data. The observations don't match it, right? I mean, you say
observations don't match what though? A model?
So they don't match the claim that the Earth is flat, right? The seismic wave, the observations of seismic waves do not match the If the Earth were flat, we would be able to match seismic wave propagation to a flat Earth model, and we can't. We cannot do that. It cannot be done. It's impossible. But we can match the observations to a spherical Earth model.
Are you talking about P waves and S waves?
Yeah, the propagation of P waves and S waves and Rayleigh waves and that sort of thing. We can match those to a spherical model, or a spheroidal model, but we can't match them to a flat Earth model. We just can't. We've tried. We've got the models. We've developed this formalism. I worked on this formalism. I helped one of the best seismologists in the world. And between us, we can't explain. We can explain local signals using a flat Earth model, but we can't explain global signals using a flat Earth model.
So if observations don't match, you're saying if observations don't match a model, then you have to
discard the model.
That's where the complication comes in.
Yeah, that's right.
To try and match a model, no matter what it is.
Yeah. And I mean, and some of the stuff you said, tomorrow I could wake up and there might be new evidence, right? There might be new evidence that is so utterly compelling in its nature that I change my view of the shape of the world, right? It's not impossible that might happen, but it directly goes against all of the evidence that I have to date. So it would have to be really, really strong evidence because,
So if an observation, I'm just trying to clarify. So if an observation doesn't match a model, then you have to complicate it.
Well, you have to
a model.
You have to work out how this observation can be explained away. And some observations are just errors, right? There's some mistake. Usually, quite often, the person who's claiming some sort of novel physics has just blundered. They've just fucked up somehow. And then you go through their work and you go, okay, you fucked up here. Like CERN, a few years ago, published a paper saying, based on our observations, these particles are traveling faster than the speed of light. We can't work it out, and so they published it. And they published it, and people obviously looked at the data that they had, and they said, "Oh, there's a problem here." And it turned out ultimately what the problem was that a local rodent had bitten into a cable and hadn't completely severed it, but it had severed it enough that it was slowing that it was slowing a time signal between 2 points in the thing. But they had no idea. They suspected they had done something wrong, but they themselves couldn't figure out what it was. So they published the results and they said, well, these are our results. We're not convinced they're right, but these are our results. And everybody said, and eventually they said, okay, here's where things were fucked up. And it was not that the people were misrepresenting the results; it was just that there's an error. I can think of another example that's actually a little bit better.
So did people? Did for that example, did people, when they got the wrong results, were they trying to fit those results somehow, or make, I guess, for lack of a better word, make excuses for why it didn't fit whatever the model was, or what their expected results would be?
Well, they were trying to. So their assumption was that they must have screwed up somehow, right? That's their assumption. When you have a result that says, look, all of physics to date is just wrong, and our experiment is right, the most likely explanation is that the experiment is fucked up somehow. That's the most likely explanation.
So if it's repeated a shitload of times and then one time something's weird, they're gonna be like, okay, well, something's wrong.
Yeah, that's right. And and so and the problem was that these guys, once that rodent had bitten through that cable, it was wrong all the time. Every time they ran it, they got the wrong results. And so they, and they couldn't figure out what was wrong themselves. They suspected something was wrong, but they figured it out. But if nobody could figure out what was going on, we'd still have, we'd have people trying to, we'd have people saying, well, maybe, I know it doesn't seem likely. Maybe relativity is wrong. Maybe, maybe Einstein just fucked this shit up for us, and we need to reconsider. And that's part of science. People publish results saying Einstein fucked stuff up. Not very often, but they do it. And
I don't think it's a situation of something being fucked up or a mistake. It's a purposeful deception.
Okay. In what context are you making this observation?
Well, I think multiple contexts on multiple levels, but I was just saying that in general, in terms of what's happening right now, I'm not saying there aren't some mistakes that are happening. There certainly are, and can do that. But what I'm saying is that in terms of this big picture cosmology and what's going on, it's not that they just made a mistake, or Einstein made one mistake on one equation. The whole thing is a purposeful deception that is designed to be a deception and to have its specific points that are.
Okay. Can I ask what you think the purpose of the deception is? Why would people deceive you in this fashion?
Well, now we have to go to motivation.
Yeah, and that's the question. I'm kind of interested because I was Christian. I'm not anymore because of my personal experience, but I'm not arguing that nobody else should be Christian, and I've never argued that.
Well, I guess to cut through the chase on this, like if I see somebody going down the street and burning all the houses down and breaking into people's cars, that doesn't mean I know why the motherfucker did it. I just know that he did do it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So there's not I don't have to assign a motivation.
All right. So you're not willing to speculate for a motivation. It isn't religiously motivated at all, because I would point out that even when I was Christian, I still didn't disbelieve science. I don't believe that God's existence or otherwise, or the validity of the gospel message, is in any way dependent on the shape of the earth or the age of the universe or whatever. God can maybe God created things, just to look the way they look. Maybe he created the universe 14 billion years ago and stepped back. I don't know. I'm not God. I don't need to know. The only individual who needs to know God's motivation is God. So even when I was a Christian, I would accept the science as regards evolution. I don't need to know what the difference between an ape and a human is. I don't. That's relevant to me. Actually humans are a type of ape, but humans and the rest of the apes. I don't need to know what the boundary is between humans and the other great apes. I don't need to know when we diverge. I don't need to know any of the answers to those questions, because if God exists, God answers those questions.
Are you answering it sounds to me like you're answering a question that wasn't asked.
Yeah, I am. Yes. No. You're quite right.
Well, that's all right. No, you brought that up. I hear what you were saying with it. I guess I'll respond in terms of the why would they lie. I mean, I think that's a huge topic that, of course, would be speculative, because unless we are them, or would be able to kind of grill them, and even if you had someone and you were trying to force them to tell you the truth, they may or may not even do that. So I mean, there's a lot of questions around that. But in terms of my thoughts onto why they're doing it, I think there's so many layers and levels. But just to name, I would say like the top 3 to 5. I would say, of course, control over humanity. If they convince people that they're in a place that they're not, and completely confuse them on multiple levels as to who they are, where they came from, and there's multiple levels there, going back into the origin story of humanity and our history, all of those stories. So there's that part of it. So just control, deception on a mental level. Another component is the spiritual one, I would say. So certainly, like, there's a spiritual component to this, in terms of sort of the Big Bang, atheism on multiple levels, just wanting humans to be disconnected from who they are and thinking about who they are by kind of feeding them this whole, Newtonian Cartesian paradigm that we're currently in. So that's another big one. Another huge one, I think, is land. I think they're hiding land, and I think potentially a huge amount of resources and technology that they're hiding from us. So of course, if they tell us we're on a globe that's limited in what's on it, then if there is additional land, they have effectively hidden that from the rest of us. So instead of all of us knocking on the door saying, hey, where's that other land? They can say, oh, here's the ball, here's the globe. And by convincing people of that, they've completely hidden the land and whatever resources. And I think they use those resources to take over the gold standard and the Federal Reserve. And so there's a huge component to that other land as to how this is unfolded. Okay. So yeah, those are just a couple.
So can I ask just a couple of questions? So I work in a research school at a university, right? We have a lot of undergraduate students and PhD students, and so where in their education are people inducted into the conspiracy? Am I part of the conspiracy? Are the people I work for part of the conspiracy? Where does this conspiracy sort of start, right?
Well, I mean, from what you just described, my answer to that would, I mean, I don't know, obviously, because I'm not you and I'm not those people, but I would say very unlikely, no, that you would not be at all. I mean, most people are just handed down, the information through the school system. I mean, I was brought up, absolutely, told the earth was a globe and the whole thing. So no, I mean, people in general that are out, teaching and in schools and things are certainly not part of it. Now, they might be unwittingly part of it because they're, maybe being fed data, different things that they're not aware of. But in terms of purposely deceiving, I would say not on those levels. So, I mean, in terms of like the shape of the earth, it's a quite a small percentage compared to the human population. Very small group. Ultimately, I mean, comparatively, that.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and they do it through, it's. I mean, in 1957, there was the huge Education Act that basically homogenized education for all, first world countries. So, I mean, there's levels of kind of hierarchy in which these things are kind of handed down and controlled. In terms of satellites, are very controlled by the NOAA and, these space agencies and governments and so on. So there's a lot of layers and levels at which, not only the education system, but also, a lot of the sort of data and just the government systems to where, all they need is a separation and a way to compartmentalize it. And just like on a Discord server, if you give certain people roles and they can't access certain rooms, they can't access them, So people who know about this, they know, and the people who don't.
Okay, can I? So I want to address a couple of questions here. Would you agree with the statement that the existence of God doesn't depend at all on the shape of the Earth? The Earth could be round and God could exist.
Yeah, I have a lot of friends that are, heliocentric, believe the Earth is a globe, but are also very spiritual and think there's a creator. So yeah, I'd say so.
And if God were just, those people would go to heaven, right? They wouldn't be. I mean, they're ethical people.
I guess from that going to heaven thing, in that particular type of perception of God, I don't know. Some religions might contest that. Actually,
that's an interesting point, and I'd like to actually discuss that with you because that the non-existence of heaven is not something that or at least the non-existence of an alternative to heaven is something I've not necessarily heard a Christian suggest before, but but I think that's its whole wormhole, right? We can spend weeks discussing that backwards and forwards because theology is a fascinating topic in and of itself. But I kind of think that I'm not going to say that there aren't conspiracies, because demonstrably there are conspiracies, even conspiracies carried out by elements of the American government. It's demonstrable fact that has happened. But if we accept that the bad guys have this level of control, like the amount, they have to be basically omniscient. They have to hand me scientific results before I know I'm even interested in that scientific result. Like if a couple of years down the line I decide, oh, I've got a good idea, I'm going to go look at this, and I'm going to go look at the data that has been released and see whether or not it's the case. And people have done this in the past. They've gone, oh, actually, we can do this a different way. We can go back and we can look at this. The data gets borne out by the satellite results, which suggests that the satellite data is real, or that the person who faked the satellite data was aware of what we might think of years down the track and come back and fake the data, but we already downloaded it, right? You can't, we don't download the data every day and allow people to fake it on us. We download it onto our own computers and we keep it there because bandwidth is valuable, right? So we download the satellite data. They can't come and change it anymore. And so I'm wondering where you think that's occurring. Like, how do you think they're managing that? Is this person, just God? Do they know ahead of time what scientific questions I'm going to ask? Or what do they do?
Don't be that vague, man. Like, what do you mean by the satellite data exactly?
Okay, well, for instance, the GPS satellite data, the data on the times of emission and times of receipt of the GPS signals.
Satellite data. What is that? Like,
so GPS satellite data record they're basically talking to one another. Okay, and they record the times they record the times at which they receive signals from the other satellites. So basically, you can measure the time it takes for the radio signal to get from one satellite to another.
And what do you get done from the?
So what we can do is use that data to work out the geometry of the satellite network. And then we can integrate the geometry of the satellite network
By time?
with the graph. Yes.
By time you get distance. Wow. How? Again.
Because the speed of light.
The speed of light.
The radio,
talking about
radio signals travel at the speed of light, right?
Not really. How many things affecting radio signals?
Yes, they do. Well,
Again, could you tell me how many
the
things
GPS
are affecting radio signals?
Well, I mean, there's relativistic.
Tony, one of the things that WhatsApp will have to understand is that they pick the particular L-band frequencies that GPS uses because it has very, very minimal refractive effects through the Earth's atmosphere.
Yeah,
so it is pretty much
at the moment. At the moment, we're not even talking about Earth's atmosphere, right? That will only come into it once we start talking to the ground-based receivers.
Of course, we are getting the data on the ground, don't we? What are you talking about?
So you interrupted me before. So I'm talking about inter-satellite transmissions between GPS satellites, which are at 20,000 kilometers altitude and above the majority of Earth's atmosphere. So claiming that atmospheric effects are important at this point in the discussion is both fatuous and idiotic.
Well, I got to the point real quick. I'm sorry about that, but we do have the data on the ground,
and then you transmit to the ground, and then they have to solve for ionospheric corrections, which they do. So yes, there are signals, yes, there are. There are ionospheric corrections to the radio transmissions. Yes. And indeed, there are corrections applied for the geometry of the receiver station. So receiver stations can receive multiple signals as the radio wave bounces off microwave or any sharp corners near the station. The radio wave can bounce off that and hit the receiver. And indeed, you need to correct for the antenna geometry. So the antenna geometry can affect the signals that you're getting. And you're also going to get modifications according to the azimuth and the altitude of the satellites. So we need to correct for all of those. And it turns out that we have sufficient data that we can apply all of these corrections and achieve very accurate results, which we can use to derive the motions of continental plates to sub-centimeter levels. Do you have any more questions?
Yeah, sure. So one of the basic questions is, again, because you haven't answered that part at all, how do you get distance from time? Just from time.
For the satellites that are outside of the for the satellites that are outside of the atmosphere, we can solve just by dividing the time taken by the speed of the satellite, right?
I mean, Tony, it's real simple. Miles per hour.
Speed of the satellite. Sorry, you must have meant speed of the signal that the satellite sends out, right? Not the speed of the satellite.
Yes, it's light speed, right? It's traveling at light speed, and we do apply relativistic corrections.
You're mixing up stuff now.
We do. No, I'm not. You're being obstructionist, is what's happening. Light speed is light speed between satellites at an altitude of 20,000 kilometers is a completely unambiguous term.
Light speed in between satellites. What the speed of what?
At an altitude, at an altitude of 20,000 kilometers is a completely unambiguous term.
Okay, great. But what are you talking about right now? Which speed? What the speed of what?
Okay, so I have already explained to you 4 times what the speed is, and I consider you to be making an effort not to want to understand radio signals, light,
radio
photon.
signals.
Tony, this guy is just a complete and utter troll. I would recommend not even engaging.
I'm really.
Yes, you are. You've already demonstrated it. You've already demonstrated it. Quite frankly,
sure. So
I am uninclined to respond to anything you say moving forward. Let's go back to the conversation we were having.
Hey,
again,
PhD, Tony, that makes
right?
2 of us, by the way.
Okay.
Again, so light has the same speed as radio signals. That's what you are claiming right now.
Yes, it's all electromagnetic radiation.
Again, I'm not responding to whoever this fuckwit is. I don't care who this fuckwit is. Don't answer his questions. Do not talk to him. He's just an idiot pretending, sea lining his way into a conversation that after hours and hours and hours of effort on my part was finally getting towards somewhere that was constructive. But, whatever.
Yeah, and
feel free to come in and urinate over it, you fuckwit.
Well, you couldn't answer my question, could you?
I did answer your question five times. I answered your question 5 times. That you don't understand the answer or refuse to understand the answer is of no consequence. Let's move on.
By the way, you confuse yourself and then you called me a fuckwit. Now, that's not an argument whatsoever.
You are a fuckwit. Demonstrable truth. Objective reality.
Oh, my.
I agree, Tony. He is a fuckwit.
Oh, my. Oh, my
and
great.
he's
Anybody
a
else
flat earth.
Wants to have
that's a flat earther who's calling you that. That's
I have one. Not... Shut up, retarded Turk.
Who cares? Sorry. Again, I do not care about headphones like this. You are acting like a child right now.
Shut up.
I don't care what you think. If I cared what the fuck you thought, I'd be answering your fucking questions, which I did 5 times, and now I'm fed up with it. You've got nothing to add to this conversation. You're just a roadblock. You're basically a biomass thief. You are a biomass thief. You are you are not honest. That is a barefaced lie. You fucking sack of shit. Don't try and bullshit me. I've met enough dickheads. In fact, I am a dickhead. I know what a dickhead sounds like. You're a fucking dickhead. Well done. I'll send you a membership if you want. I'm a dickhead. You're just worse. You're just more worthless, more ignorant, more stupid, and more fucking dishonest than everybody else. Congratulations, you. Now fuck off. And for those of you in the chat who were wondering, for those of you in the chat who were wondering why I was saying I was not annoyed earlier in the conversation, fuck off, you fucking fuckwit! Fuck yourself! Go away! Nobody wants to talk to you.
I mean, he does.
Radio signals travel at the same speed as light. That's what I learned so far. Nothing else. And even that's just a claim.
You should have learned that you're a fuckwit. I've told you multiple times that you're a fuckwit. Have you not learned that?
No.
And it's demonstrable that you're a fuckwit.
Deal with people
it is an objective reality that you're a fuckwit. Then fuck off! Right, we were having a conversation earlier, and then you arrived, and now I'm telling you to fuck off. And I'm going to keep on telling you to fuck off until you do it. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere, mate. I can do this all fucking night. Fuck off. Any other questions from the non-idiotic members of non-idiotic members of the party? Yes, Terry, how are you?
Tony, I was just trying to say, when WhatsApp says he's learned that radio waves travel at the same speed as light from this conversation, that makes him a complete and utter lying bastard. Because
yes, he does.
I've had that conversation with him on multiple times previously.
Yes, no, we haven't. Now you're lying.
He could actually fucking read a Wikipedia page. He could bestir himself to read a physics textbook, and all of this would answer his questions. And instead, he's pretending that none of this is an option that's available to him. He needs to have it explained to him by me. No, you don't need to explain to me. There are plenty of other resources that will explain the speed of light and the theory of radiation to you. Go and look them up. It's not that fucking hard. Are you just not fucking literate? Are you not literate enough to go on the fucking Wikipedia and read about the propagation of radiation? Is that beyond you? It was a yes or no question. I only want a yes or no answer. Is it beyond you to read Wikipedia to get the answer to this question?
You are proposing me to read Wikipedia as a PhD.
No. Yes, yes, I know better than Wikipedia, but you obviously fucking don't. What the fuck qualifications do you possess? What? I'm not even. I've stopped being angry now. I'm just trying to stop you from speaking. That's the game here. You're here to spout your ignorant nonsense to what you regard as a captive audience. And I'm here to stop them from hearing a fucking word you say. I don't care what you say, if it's accurate, if it's not accurate, if it's true, if it's untrue, if it's religious, if it's not religious. My objective now is to talk over you. And I'm not going to give that up for another 6 hours. I pledge to you, I am prepared to dedicate that much time. I'm not a professor.
Wow.
I'm not a professor. I do not teach. You're a fucking idiot if you think that a professor teaches, or you think that all PhDs do not teach. And I am going to spend the next 6 hours correcting everything you fucking say, because you're a halfwit, you're an ignoramus, you're a moron, you're excrement, you're dog shit on the side.
I gotta correct you. He's not a halfwit. He's a fuckwit.
So again,
yeah, he's a fuckwit. Yes.
How long?
He's a dog shit. He's a dog shit on the sidewalk of life. He is. He is what you would get if you crossbred Donald Trump with Boris Johnson. He is exactly the sort. He is exactly.
How about Rosie O'Donnell?
Yeah, sure. That's it.
Yeah, Rosie O'Donnell. Let's go, Donald Trump and Rosie O'Donnell. You are the retarded love child.
Do you
have your meds? Yeah.
Gee.
No. Actually, no.
Can we just stop, please?
No, I am not going to shut up while this fuckwit. I'm not going to shut up while this fuckwit is in the chat. Okay? And the reason is he is a symptom of what is wrong with society today.
Oh my.
He is exactly the sort of smug, sanctimonious fuckwit who sea lions their way into otherwise constructive conversations, pretending that they don't understand the answer to a question that has been answered 5 fucking times for their benefit and their benefit alone. Yes, I've met you, Bev.
Morning, what's
well
up?
Done.
Spot on.
Hey there.
Buster.
All right. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, up until about 10 minutes ago, it was all right, and it's just gone a bit.
Because of the
Tony's gone a
fuckwits
bit
who
like
calls...
fucking...
What's up?
Yes. I told you all. I told you.
Is this the angry one that you were on about, Tony? We never saw this one last night.
I told you all. I told you all. You would know when I'm fucking fired up.
He's telling you
right?
now. Yeah, this is what he told us about.
I'm telling you now that, and it isn't Bev. It isn't Bev who's fired me up. It isn't Spot On Level who's fired me up. It isn't Buster who's fired me up. It's the fuckwit known as WhatsApp who has fired me up. I answered
what's up?
his question.
What's up?
I answered his question 5 times in 1 minute.
You've actually said that. You said that 10 times, probably.
Yes, I know. And WhatsApp still doesn't know the answer to the fucking question.
It's like, what's up? His name is not WhatsApp. Don't get on that. Fucking hell.
Are you alright, Tony? Seriously, are you alright, mate?
No, he says he goes like this.
I will come down with
This is rage mode. He told us
yes,
he goes into this.
It's well known. I have a shut up, WhatsApp. As soon as you start talking,
don't get the app involved.
I don't fucking care. I don't fucking care what his name is. He can shut his fucking mouth.
Yeah.
And he can fuck off because he's got nothing useful to say that anybody wants to hear.
Yeah, but this effect is way better. It's worth it keeping him around. Don't go yet. What's up?
Well,
yeah, if only you. No, shut up! Shut up, WhatsApp! Shut up, WhatsApp! You're never going to get a word out without me shouting over you. So don't even try.
I don't even know why. Why has it come to this? What was it? I mean, like, I know you say that.
I answered 5 times.
Hold on.
The speed of light is the same as the speed of radio waves, right? The speed of light is the same as the speed of radio waves.
It's a constant,
and he's
right?
asserting, yes, it's a constant, and he's asserting that that's some fucking unsupported plane, and I haven't explained it properly. He can fuck off if that's his attitude.
I missed it.
He can fuck off if that's his attitude. He can fuck off. No, I didn't. I did not say nothing affects it. In fact, I talked about, if you'd listened, you fucking liar, about tropospheric corrections to GPS signals. I talked about multiple receiver corrections to GPS signals. I talked about antenna corrections to GPS signals. And instead, you went back to saying, so you're just saying it goes the same speed. No, that's in fact not what I've been saying. And so why ask me questions if you don't care about the response?
Do you make corrections to make it go the same speed, then?
So what we do is we try to come up with a geometry for the satellites and the receivers that is in best accord with what all of the satellites and receivers think is happening. Any individual satellite, any individual receiver may be in error. So we have to apply corrections to their measurements. Now, some of these corrections are, the corrections we can correct for are the systematic corrections. So corrections due to transmitting through the ionosphere, corrections because of the geometry of the antenna, corrections for the geometry of the receiver site, that sort of thing. So we try correcting for those, and we try coming up with the best solution that we can. But at the same time, we are aware that we are modeling reality. And our model of reality, however intricate we make it, is unlikely to be 100% accurate with zero error. That's
then he asks stupid questions like, how do you get distance from speed? It's like miles per hour. He's just asking stupid questions, Bev.
Yeah, that's a stupid question. And, I mean, Sugar Cookie has been, sniping at me the entire time. And, fair enough. But, the time taken for the signal to get from one place to another, the speed at which the signal is going, right? It's just a matter of, solving for the path length at that time.
And adjusting the corrections to make it so it's the number that you want at the end.
No, we don't have a number we want at the end. What we want to minimize is the misfit. So what we want is a solution that will minimize the error. That's all we're looking for, right? So we know that whatever solution we're going to come up with, whatever model we're going to come up with, as far as the positions of the satellites and the receiver stations and the characteristics or whatever, it's not going to be accurate. There's going to be an error. We want a model that produces the minimum possible error. That's the model that we're looking for. We don't have an a priori. We don't have a model that we're aiming for. The only thing we care about is the error. We want the error to be as small as possible. That's it. If a flat Earth produced an error as small as possible, we would go with the flat Earth geometry, but it doesn't.
When the signal comes back,
no, shut up, WhatsApp. Shut up. Shut up, WhatsApp. Shut up, fucking you have abdicated your ability to participate. You had the opportunity to talk in this conversation, and you decided, I'll piss it away by being a fuckwit. And so now you're going to be treated. Yes, you are. Everybody says so. Everybody says you're being a fuckwit, and you are a fuckwit. You're a fuckwit, WhatsApp. Give it up. You're a fuckwit. You don't get to ask questions anymore.
Not everyone.
You're acting like a 5-year-old. Okay.
Because I don't. And I can't even hear what he's saying. So
You're wrong.
Can I hear what he's saying?
Yes, that's my objective. No. My objective is that
you don't want to hear what he's got to say. We've all got to suffer. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's exactly right. That's
it sounds exhausting, this, Tony, for you.
When you come into a chat and you be a lying fuckwit, this is what happens to you. No, I'm not going to drink water. I'm going to stay unhydrated for the entirety of the time that this fuckwit tries to express his opinion or ask a question or do anything.
When it comes
because he's a complete fuckwit who has had his question answered multiple times. I have answered yours. I have answered. I don't want to mute him. The objective is for you guys not to hear him. Right? It's not a matter of me not hearing. Nobody gets to hear him because he is a complete fuckwit and
he's got one of those voices that just cuts through what you say, though, Tony. You can still hear what he's saying.
Well, I don't care. I'm going to make the effort. Then you can try. Okay, Bev, you can ask the question he's asking, and I won't shout over you, and I will answer you. You can ask the question he's asking, and I won't shout over you.
Oh, that's childish as fuck, that, Tony. Let's do it. Let's do it. What's up? You send us a message what you want asking.
I will shout over him.
I won't make fun of your accent or anything.
What a kid.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I'm a child. I'm an arrogant dickhead and a child, and I don't care. I don't give a rat's ass what you think. I don't give a rat's ass what Bev thinks. I don't give a rat's ass what Buster thinks. Fuck you all.
Just me and Buster, We special.
Well, everybody.
I'm glad
Actually,
you didn't mention me. You didn't mention me.
Doesn't care what you think either. No.
Okay, Bev.
No, he does.
You know,
He likes me.
Yeah, I like him. I don't. I shouldn't kick you. No, yeah, yes. Well, fuck everyone. I'm an arrogant prick. You're all worthless. Let's go with that. So yes. You know, if you want to ask me a question, Bev, get WhatsApp to say it while I'm shouting over him, or get him to text it to you. But I'm not letting WhatsApp talk. And
Already done that.
you can call me childish. You can call me an arrogant prick. You can call me whatever. You can call me mentally unstable. I don't give a rat's ass.
Why
You're a
would we call you
fuckwit.
that?
What's up? Because I am a fuckwit. You know, let's be honest. So you know,
So the question
I'm not going to
is,
deny reality.
the question is, so okay, PhD Tony, mentally unstable person. When
Yes.
radio signals come back from space, doesn't travel at constant speed at all, does it?
Come back from where?
Space.
Okay,
Inverted commas,
radio,
you know, that's space.
Why? So the speed of radio signals depends on the objective speed in terms of kilometers per hour. Depends on the characteristics of the medium it's traveling through.
Yeah, so it's not constant, is it?
No, it's not.
Yeah, see, that's good.
But
you can adjust.
More important
afterwards,
is actually the geometry. More important is the geometry of the path.
I've heard people saying that. What do you mean by that? The geometry.
Okay, so you imagine a radio signal that hits that's going in a straight line. Let's pretend that you can have that
Euclidean
sort of
geometry.
And,
straight lines.
Okay, are we going to go back to this because I've already
You said the geometry, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay, the geometry in three-dimensional space of the path that the geometry in space-time. The geometry in space-time that the signal takes to get from the satellite that's transmitting it to the receiver. So that is affected by the transmission characteristics of the medium. And the ionosphere, because it has a lot of charged particles, high-energy charged particles,
slow it down or speed it up?
No, it deflects the signal. So it results in the light signals that would can't travel in a straight line. Okay, their path is deflected slightly by going through, sort of like light through a magnifying glass. Right, in the vast majority of circumstances, it can't go through in a straight line. Obviously, it can do towards the center of the magnifying glass, but in general, towards the edge of the magnifying glass, its path is deflected. So,
like
depending on, yes, like a lens. So the ionosphere deflects the radio signal, and that deflection needs to be taken into account when calculating the distance between the receiver and the satellite. We're
talking about the GPS satellites.
Yes, the
wow.
GPS satellites.
And this is how they make the adjustments, because they can't do adjustments down to millimeter, right? This is why they're out so much.
No, so we're not capable of millimeter level accuracy on GPS solutions. You're quite
especially
right.
Vertical. Yeah, on the vertical scale, yeah.
I mean, well, the vertical is actually the least accurate of the axes. Yeah. The z-axis is the least accurate. GPS
because of these adjustments.
is kind of more in. Well, not necessarily. It's because there are multiple things that may be going on.
Different speeds of the radio waves.
No, it's not the different speeds of the radio waves. The speed of the radio waves doesn't change that much. It's the path length that changes as a result of the ionosphere.
The path.
Okay, so it's the length the trajectory that the radio wave travels.
When you do your adjustments, how good can you get it on that?
So there's a limit. You're quite right. I mean, we're at the moment. It's one of the big problems actually with automatic cars. We kind of need real-time accuracy that at the moment we can't achieve with GPS.
When you say we, Tony, it sounds like you're still in the development stage with them, yeah?
No, so two of the guys that I work for, including my immediate supervisor, are the people who developed the MIT software for analyzing GPS.
I hope you don't
signals.
talk to them like I just heard you shouting before.
They're probably aware that I talk to people like that, but they're
You've never talked to them like that, though, have you?
I kind of my supervisor apparently is so traumatized by me saying, "But that's wrong, right?" that he has complained to his family about it. And now, if his family want to wind them up, they will say to him, "But that's wrong, right?" So every now and again, such as yesterday, my supervisor will have a problem and will ask me in to discuss it, and I'll explain to him, so he understands things better, what's going on with the situation. But oftentimes he will describe the problem, and I would go, "Well, you understand that what you're doing is just wrong, right?" And he will go, and he thinks to himself. He always pauses, and he thinks to himself, "Well, if I knew it was wrong, I wouldn't be doing it, right?"
You're trying to trigger your boss.
Yeah, I'm not trying to trigger my boss, but I do
sometimes. You are triggering your boss, then.
Inadvertently do it. Yes. It happens. But yeah. So yes, but I don't necessarily fire up. But they do understand that I do go up, and as long as I don't drag my university into it, they're okay with it. As long as I'm not playing to speak on the authority of the university that I work for.
But you do that, Tony. You definitely speak on the authority of your education.
Do I?
Yeah, yeah.
I speak on the authority. I don't, Bev, and you were gone when I said
you take a higher position. I heard it earlier. Did you take that back again? Come all humble.
Yeah. Well. Let me clarify what I mean. Okay. So and you can decide whether or not it's humble. Okay. The reality is that what I think or say is fucking irrelevant. Right? It only matters.
But the way you comport yourself, Tony, as well.
Yeah, I do. I'm an arrogant prick. I told you that before, Bev. Were you not listening? I'm an arrogant prick. I understand that. But what I do or say only really matters if it agrees with mainstream science, right? So I may have beliefs, I may have understandings that diverge from mainstream science. Those beliefs, those understandings don't matter. They don't care. You shouldn't care about what I say. And in fact, you should care about
How do we know what is comporting to mainstream science and what isn't? When do we know when you're deviating from that?
That's a great question.
Is that when you go all shouty?
No, it's
people question that
bit. You might want to check. Might want to double check because I might fly off the handle a little bit at that edge. But you should check the literature. So you should check the state of scientific literature and see, well, is what he's saying in agreement with the scientific literature? Because the scientific literature, it has to get past peer review, it has to get assessed, and anybody who can knock someone down in scientific literature, they're gung-ho for it, right? If somebody could, prove, the theory of relativity wrong, they'd be superstars, and it's just a so
Is this what it's like in the higher echelons of science then?
Yeah, it is. So, it's
like a Penrose.
And I mean, I can tell you about my personal experience with peer review. There's a guy in my specific discipline. Like, there are two dominant groups in my discipline, and I'm in one of them. And there's this guy who runs the other one, and he is a complete fucking cocksucker. He's a dick. He has abused his position to make sure that, my papers, or papers on which I'm a co-author, actually 4 of them are my supervisor's paper. He hates my supervisor. He hates me less, but he hates my supervisor more. But he does everything he can to discredit my supervisor and downplay my supervisor's work. And it's corrupt, right? It's a corrupt practice in science. And I was talking to the other guys after you went off. Like, I admit that there is corrupt practice in science. There are people who are screwing the system, who are, perpetrating barefaced lies. To some extent, we need better countermeasures. You guys are pointing out that we need better countermeasures to establish that we're not corrupt, to guarantee that there's no corruption involved. We need to do better with that. And you're right. If you came up to me and you said, Tony, I think mainstream science needs a better mechanism for making sure that only accurate results get published, I'd go, okay, you know what? Yeah, 100%. I'm with you on that one. We need better. We also need better engagement with the general public. We also need better engagement with people who don't have the scientific understanding that we have.
Yeah, better communication, like with WhatsApp.
Yeah,
we've got a better understanding than he has.
Yeah.
Actually,
because that's one thing. Like, if you're going into the public, you might want to start, like, try and calm down a bit when you're talking. We know that you're talking. You're talking from it.
Actually, so if I stay calm, if I stay rational,
so much better. Would you like now?
Would you guys know the difference between somebody who's a complete fuckwit and somebody who isn't? Right?
You do sound a bit bad when you're shouting and screaming.
Yeah, maybe so, but kind of I kind of think that it works the other way, right? If
it's more entertaining.
It is certainly more entertaining.
Like on a scale of 1 to 10.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would say, as far as sophistry goes, I say you're about a 6.5. I think the Rumpus got you. He's probably 8 or 9.
Okay, so
on a fuckwit scale, I mean, I think I might agree with you on what you're about to say.
Off the charts.
So yeah, I'm a like, this is the thing. Like, I don't tolerate intellectual dishonesty, and I mean, that's a matter of gradation, right? I kind of think of, I have tried on several occasions to explain the concept of spherical angles to people and the idea of spherical geometry, and all I'm met with is, well, you can't have an angle if you don't have a straight line. I've explained multiple times, for God's sake, guys, I'm not lying to you. I'm not conning you. I'm not fucking bullshitting you. Why don't you fucking believe me? Right? Just look up spherical angle. I didn't author the fucking Wikipedia page. Right? It's a real thing. We've been talking about these for fucking ages, and they work.
You actually could.
Okay. Why don't you?
It sounds similar to like what we're trying to do when we're talking about simple things like the water level and establishing a horizontal plane with it.
Except that water will conform to an equipotential surface, right? Water and all fluids, even gases, right? Any fluid has no alternative. It has no internal rigidity. No, we're not going straight lines. It will conform to any geometry that the forces tell it to. Okay, so if gravity is spheroidal, it will adopt a geometry in agreement with that. If gravity is planar, it will adopt a geometry in regard to that. Your argument that water doesn't do this, water will do whatever it's told to do by the forces that are applied to it. And so the question you need to ask is gravity real? Does gravity behave in the way the sphere Earth has suggested?
But the question we asked is level horizontal?
And only at the point that you're taking the measurement.
Yeah, well, when we put some bits together, we found that 3 of them share the same.
Except, and then the question becomes, how accurately did you measure that? And so it's all a matter of what accuracy do you need. If you talk to people in the building industry, if you talk to an architect, architects don't even, you talk to a physicist, they'll start about gravity, they'll start sprouting about Einstein, right? If you talk to a geophysicist like myself, they'll say, well, we're on the Earth. Newtonian gravity is all you need. It's
what about
good enough.
A geometer?
You talk to
what about the people that actually measure the land?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, if you talk to an architect, all they need to know is,
they just do the plans.
All they need to know.
Surveyor, mate. I think you're on about
yeah.
No, I'm talking about architects
about the guy
engineers.
that makes
people who are people who are designing structures that are designed to.
But they definitely use Euclidean geometry. Those people, right?
They
the geometry is definitely sorted for the geometry that they use. Spot on's talking about the people that actually measure the land that give him those numbers.
So surveyors. Mm-hmm. So it depends on the distance over which you're surveying, right? If you're surveying over a short distance, that's fine. Mm-hmm. Straight line of sight, all works.
See, but once they've told us different than that. You can't just brush over that.
Earlier on you were talking about a linear length of 220 kilometers before you need to account for it.
No, that's not what I said. And can you please get?
Sorry.
Why he's asking for clarity? Don't get upset.
Okay, so what I said was, above that length scale, you definitely, unquestionably, need to, flat Earth models will not work for you. No, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
And this is the distinction. So I am a geophysicist. I work on the response of the Earth to physical forces applied to it. That's what I do. In particular,
that sounds like just the guy we're after.
Yeah, it would if anybody would listen to me, but apparently I need to struggle to be heard. So in particular my speciality is deformation of the Earth's surface and Earth's gravity field in response to surface loads. Okay,
we might have just found a nice bit where it's straight.
So for a short enough time scale, I work on the last ice sheet that I modeled was the Laurentide. Well, actually, the North American ice sheet complex. You modeled flat,
didn't you?
Yeah, in my PhD,
how big were your models?
So the ice sheet that I was attempting to model at that point was the Swiss Alps ice sheet, which is only a few hundred kilometers across.
What? A few hundred?
Yeah.
No way. You didn't model that flat, did you?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
So I was trying to develop a methodology. right? And I developed a methodology, and it turned out, as is often the case, you develop a theory for something, and it's elegant. It relies on mathematical technology, and then somebody comes along and goes, I can brute force
mathematical
it.
technology.
Mathematical algorithms. Algorithms is the word I wanted to use there.
Wow.
So it relies on sophisticated algorithms. In fact, I applied a Hankel transform to the load to turn it into a two-dimensional load. Yes.
That sounds fucking
It's a
great.
form.
I wish I knew
It does, doesn't it? It's just a form. So there are things called differential equations. One of the ways of solving differential equations is by using integral transforms, and one of the specific forms of integral transform is a Hankel transform, and that was the transform that I was using in the particular case I was dealing with.
Have you heard Spot On? I'm like a bit late. Is Spot On told you about the test he's done?
Which test? The test of forcing the line, so to speak, against and comparing it to water level.
No, we just did a shared straight line segment, a basic geometrical principle one. We seem to think that it was Euclidean, but can you just change your geometry rather than changing the measurements?
So the issue is the accuracy, right? I mean, so if you look at say 600 meters or 500 meters, you're going, a drag tank, for instance, can detect a curvature of about 1.5 millimeters going on memory. Don't quote me.
Over what sort of distance?
This is
500 meters.
Hold on,
500 meters, 600 meters.
Was when they're testing the that bath thing we were talking about the other day.
Yeah. That's right.
That's about 100 feet though, 150 feet or something.
No, it might be. No, it's 430, but there may be one bigger. Remember, it might have been 80.
400 feet. Remember? Right, yeah, it's about 150 meters.
Yeah, so
not 500.
There are drag tanks out there up to 600 meters long, and I think that might be the Chinese, because they're building the Navy hand over fist.
Right. What accuracy you said?
You get it. So 1.5 millimeters. So the curvature of the geoid. At that
but you didn't know exactly at the time, did you? Because
no. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not that. They're not the numbers, Tony.
Okay, well then don't. You shouldn't assume that I know the numbers, because I'm saying I don't. I'm from memory. It's about the order of.
Isn't it?
No. I just explained what I did. I model the deformation of a surface.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
And its gravitational field.
Yeah.
Underneath
of liquid
ice
water.
Sheets.
Right. Yeah.
You do
underneath.
There is
it's a bit difficult.
Yeah. Well, no. There are hydrostatic loading, but our accuracy is not sufficient that we can distinguish. Like what we use a paleo.
We said that GPS is no good. That's why we went to the water.
GPS is reasonably good. I mean, it's pretty good. I wouldn't, there are a lot of people who rely on GPS, but I kind of think that it's.
But the water level's more accurate, isn't it, for elevation checks?
Well, all elevations are measured. Well, the elevations are generally measured relative to something related to
first order
height, ocean height,
mean sea level usually.
Different maps may use high water spring tide or neap tide or whatever. Sort of. I've done enough maps that they haven't standardized their zero level. They measure elevations relative to that.
To the mean
relative to some level.
Yeah,
not necessarily. It could be high water spring tide. It could. I've seen maps.
But they reference that to the mean sea level, so they know what the high tide is.
They reference mean sea level to that, right? They've chosen a particular reference level, and they reference mean sea level to that. And generally, you'll find for, say, naval navigation charts, they'll
they
do
won't
it.
Give a bother about the height of the tide on the water.
They will in some locations.
You might need it
right?
for docking at the bays and stuff like
that. Well, Bay of Fundy, for instance, it depends on the watercourse. Like there's one day a year when you can land at the Incheon Peninsula, right? So it was quite important for the Incheon.
There's a whole
landing
town in France that you can only get there on certain tides.
There's a particular
Mount
cricket
Saint
match,
Michel.
right? Could be. There's a particular cricket match that they play on a patch of dirt that is only exposed like a couple of days a year or something like that.
Yeah, that's the Goodwin Sands.
Yeah,
a little bit further down into the English Channel from where I am. Although they do actually have a local cricket match out on the Scroby, or they used to.
Yeah, I mean,
which is directly offshore where I am.
Anyway, so to get back, it's all there's a lot of stuff that I will talk about. That people go, well, you can disregard that. Well, not if you're trying to be absolutely accurate. Like,
well, we were trying to establish a straight line.
Yeah, but
we think we did it.
You wanted it. Okay, well, if you think you did it, you should certainly publish your results and get external validation.
It was just a.
But if you
measure this time.
It's just personal. But what do you think of the principle of it? Have you
Okay, so if you're measuring your elevation relative to some body of water that is connected.
But do you know what the test is? Rather than describe something that it isn't.
Okay, so is it kind of a forcing the line experiment? So you're trying to extrapolate a horizontal line out some distance and show how it relates to the surface of the Earth or the geoid? That was a question. I might be informed. I might be wrong.
Yeah, it's a water. I've got a water level that's 400 meters long. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And Bev's got one that's 400 meters long as well.
Okay.
And
can you define what you mean by? Can you define what you mean by water level? So I'm going to admit, you may be using terminology that will be perfectly familiar to a surveyor. I am not a surveyor. I am a geophysicist.
No. It's quite simple. It's a clear pipe or tube filled with distilled water. That's it.
Okay. And so my observation.
I just recently got a tube and did it myself.
Okay. So the observation that I would.
Sugar Cookies joined the club.
Was it Sugar?
Have you? You got 400 meters.
No.
Yeah, that was me.
Okay.
Have you got the 400 meters or
So the observation I would make in regards to this experiment is that there will be a slight offset, right? Because air pressure won't be exactly the same at both ends of the pipe.
Do you know what the test is?
I'm sorry. No, sorry. Go on.
It's purely geometric. Right, so you take the principle.
Have you got a pen? Bev, why don't you have you got a pen and paper there, Tony?
I do, yes.
There you go, then maybe you might be able to just draw it out. Bev, if you do you want to explain it, or are you up for that?
Let me get on the board.
Oh, you're going to get it? No, well, Tony's got a pencil, and maybe
I've got pen and paper, and
Okay.
Yeah.
You know how a water level works? Do you know what a water level looks like?
Okay, so I'm imagining a tube with water in it.
Yeah.
And you're measuring the level that the water reaches to at both ends of the tube.
Yes. right? So geometrically, you can compare that to a straight line, right? That you could say that is 2 points at the extreme points, and the water level, if horizontal, would lie on a straight line path from one of those points to the other one.
Yep.
And that line we would be able to call a horizontal plane of reference.
Well, yeah, okay. I mean,
so
I can see a horizontal plane driven between the two.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now,
let's
geometric test is to make sure that the bit in the middle actually lies on that straight line.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And how do you do that?
You get 2 water levels, and you put the start of one in the center of the other. So both of them have a center point that is the start or end of the other water level. So you overlap 200 meters of the 400 meters.
So in terms of, let me just stop you there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because what you're doing isn't going to be able to distinguish between your two hypotheses.
What do you mean? No, it's just a straight line test, geometric.
Yeah. So but you're using the same metric for
it's
your
geometry,
straight line.
Euclidean geometry.
Yeah. So but you're so you've got 2 points, right? And you've got a water level, so that and you're assuming that the deviations in air pressure, deviations in friction against the side of the pipe are negligible. You're assuming all of that. You're assuming that there's no temperature gradient
Law of
inside
connecting
the pipe.
Vessels.
Well, you can still have a temperature gradient inside a connected vessel, right?
It's strange you say that, because we're going to have to add in expansion tanks, which is thanks for reminding us.
So if you use water level to determine whether or not the middle point is above, right? You're going to get the same result, regardless of
straight
whether
line segment.
My point would be that your experiment is going to work both ways.
It's not an experiment. It's just geometry. It's just practical geometry.
Okay. So what you're saying is that your experimental setup would produce a different outcome on a spherical
Our water levels are just a practical form of Euclidean geometry.
Okay. I'm going to try explaining myself again. Am I correct in saying that you think there would be a different result on a spherical Earth with a spherical geoid than there would be on a flat Earth with a flat geoid?
No, we're just saying that in reality, we took these tools out and formed a practical straight line geometry test in reality and got exactly a Euclidean result. We were well chuffed.
Okay, so it seems to me like you're, and I would invite you, if you think you've done what you've done, to take the results to an impartial moderator. Because to me, what it sounds like you've done is you've failed to conceive of an experimental setup that will distinguish between the two hypotheses.
What two hypotheses? We only have one hypothesis. It's straight line.
Well, you need
show a straight line.
This is the thing.
You could either succeed or fail, right?
So you're suggesting that all 3 points should lie on the same line.
Spherical
Within
planar
the
points.
error, have you estimated the error associated with your apparatus? Have you estimated the error associated with
coplanar.
thermal expansion? Okay, you can call them whatever you want.
Yep.
You have to demonstrate that
Yeah,
they're
by a
coplanar.
shared straight line segment. Ba-boom. Yeah.
Okay, the straight line segment between what?
Between
How
the two
have you
water
demonstrated that the middle point is at the same level as the points on either end?
What we did, we put another tap in the center at the 200 meter mark, and then because we were just doing it with two of us, we put another one in again on that 100. So there were 3 risers at the center where that shared over.
Okay, I feel like I'm going to need a diagram of what you've done.
Okay, let me have a look.
Okay, so because to me, so the central problem is that water actually conforms to whatever force that is applied to it. And so the water is going to bulge and it's going to follow an equipotential.
Bulge?
Please don't say it's going to follow an equipotential surface. If the equipotential surface is curved, then the water surface is curved. If the equipotential surface is flat, then the surface is flat.
I thought the surface doesn't matter about what's underneath it.
And so, well, actually, you're wrong.
Oh.
So the problem is even with communicating vessels, as Sugar Cookie points out, you're going to reach an equivalent point of air pressure, right? The level inside the tubes is going to rise to where air pressure allows it to rise. So air pressure is going to be constant over every opening on this tube.
Yeah, like I said,
in a default
next
statement,
time we have to do an expansion tank.
So an expansion tank won't solve your problem. Okay, it will minimize the error on the observation.
The law of communicating vessels.
You should,
it does. That's advised.
But the air pressure above, and it's a matter of what you are attempting to do is assert basically water level is flat. We observe water level being at the same level at these 3 points. Therefore, we're flat.
Straight line.
But
Straight line
it's
segment.
not. Okay, how are you demonstrating the straight lines?
By showing all of those points are shared.
Like
we did before, to show that a straight line, right, is from one point to the other. That all of the points lie along that shortest path.
So far I haven't heard any discussion of how you show that the points are all on the same line.
Well, that's because you haven't listened to Bev talk about it. You've listened to other people talk about it.
Okay, I'm here now and I'm listening to Bev. Bev has not explained how he has demonstrated all 3 points lie on the same line.
Here you go. Look, there's a thing coming in there. Can you see that? I didn't put any coloured liquid in it or anything. I literally made it a day before as I was listening to people. So that's the setup.
Okay. Carry on the explanation.
Can you see there's 2 different water levels at the centre there, and they share those centre lines?
I need to step away from the keyboard, but I'm still listening to you. Please keep talking.
Have you had a look at that plastic thing?
Yes, I have.
The model.
Yes.
Right? Well, we'll call that a scale model, although the tube's the same. But everything else, T-sections, all of that, that's the same stuff, right? And those meters, 200 meters, 100, 100, and 200, they're that's what we're after, right? And particularly those 3 tubes at the center. And by showing that all of those match, we show a shared straight line segment. So all the points from one end of each water level, the center points, both lie on the same straight line. It's as though it's one straight line when you do that.
Bev, can I ask you a question, please?
Of course you can.
Do you think you can measure the heights in those tubes to an accuracy of better than 0.7 millimeters?
Yeah, you can see the water levels. They're right next to each other.
Can you measure them to be level to or yeah? Can you measure them to
they're
be
next
within,
to each other, Alan?
Yes, but can you measure the height of the water in each tube?
What for?
To better than 0.7 millimeters.
What for, Alan?
Well, because the only way you can, because the expected difference on a sphere of 6371 kilometers radius is going to be 0.7 millimeters at 100 meters. So you have to be able to measure the levels.
That's the drop over 100 meters.
To within 0.748 millimeters.
Yeah, well, actually, you need an error of about 0.375. Yeah. But you know, so I missed the part where you demonstrated by, for instance, shining some sort of laser through the 3 points, that the levels were along the same line.
Yeah, shared. All of those points are shared.
Yeah.
So it shows that they're on the same straight line. I say straight line anyway.
All that shows is that the points are at the same equipotential.
Yeah,
that's
Euclidean
all
geometry,
that shows.
That would be showing a shared straight line segment.
But you've assumed, you're assuming that
Euclidean geometry.
No, you're assuming that equipotential surfaces are planes.
No,
right?
I'm assuming the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. And showing that a shared straight line segment shows that all of those points are on that straight line.
All right, publish. Write it up, publish it. Okay, all I can say is if you
don't like it.
If you no, if you think that this is valid, write it up into a publication, submit it for publication.
It's just geometry, Tony.
I'm telling you that your understanding of the geometry is flawed.
Okay, so it's not Euclidean geometry then.
I'm saying that
could we have disproved Euclidean geometry with this test?
No. So, what you have done is you have conducted an experiment whose results are perfectly explicable under either. Okay, then what you've done is something fucking worthless that I don't need to address.
It's a straight line test in practical geometry. That's all we were saying. You're not bothered about it, then it's all right. You don't think it's anything?
Okay, so
is it worth making a paper about? You're very confused, Tony.
No. So what I would suggest is that you have failed to conduct an experiment that will produce different results.
We didn't try and do an experiment. Did you try and do an experiment?
For God's sake, will you let me finish my fucking sentence?
We didn't try and do an experiment. You can't fail something that we never even tried.
Flat. There he goes.
You are trying to demonstrate that the Earth is flat.
No, we were just trying to show Euclidean geometry, the benefits of the logic.
Well, then you fucking failed, didn't you?
We failed showing a shared straight line segment.
Come up with a better idea.
Wow.
Okay, I tried being polite, Bev.
Is that your PhD
response? You're being a fucking dick.
No, you didn't.
Yeah.
Yes, I did. You're wrong, Bev. You're as wrong as what's up. Give it up. This isn't a proof of what you think it is.
You thought it was worth making a paper about and writing all sorts of stuff up a minute ago.
Go and do it. It's a waste of your fucking time and you will get slapped down by the reviewers if you should try it.
We didn't try it.
But maybe you'll listen to them given that you're not listening to me.
Spot on. I bet you knew this had happened to Tony, didn't you? You did it because of this.
Maybe there's somebody else you listen to in the peer review process. Maybe there exists a person on the face of the fucking planet whose opinion on geometry you give a rat's ass about. But clearly it isn't fucking me. Because I've told you this is not going to prove what you think it proves. Right? Yeah. And every time I try to explain why it doesn't prove what you think it proves, you fucking interrupt me.
Yeah, do you want to come and watch it next time we do live stream?
No! It doesn't prove what you think it proves. I'm not arguing with the results
PhD Tony reviews.
I am arguing with your interpretation of the results.
Practical geometry, yeah.
You said... No, it's not practical geometry.
Tony, you definitely need to start working on
you fucking idiots.
Seriously.
Okay, no, because no amount of
peer review by Tony
and talking, and no amount of being polite and talking through why it doesn't prove what you want it to prove has proved effective. Every time I try and explain why this doesn't prove what you think it proves,
it's a shared straight line segment.
You talk over me. Shut the fuck up. Shut up. You have not proved a straight line segment. You haven't proved a straight line. You have not proved a straight line. You haven't proved a straight line.
I do think we did.
You haven't proved a straight line.
I think it was
well, then publish it and see how you go.
Who's the fucking Aussie in the background? He's the main man.
What?
PhD Tony.
PhD.
Yeah. He's working, I think. I think he might be working.
Working? No.
Yeah.
Honorable.
Yeah.
Per member
Shut
of the
up,
academia.
He might be in the lab. You never know.
Fuck off. You're completely worthless. I haven't forgotten I haven't forgotten what your voice sounds like, and I haven't forgotten my promise to you. So shut the fuck up and keep typing in chat.
Is it the geometry that you don't like, Tony, or is it...
No, you need to prove a straight line. You haven't proven a straight line. You're just saying it's a straight line.
It's two extreme points.
You're just saying a straight line, and you haven't proved it.
You didn't know
the straight line needs to pass. Shut up, what's up? You're still a fucking liar, and you're still a fucking dickhead.
That wasn't me. You idiot.
Yes. Well, I don't care. I don't care who it is.
You're as bad as what's up now, Sugar Cookie. That's how quick it changes, eh?
So, in order to demonstrate that these 3 points are in a straight line, you need to get something straight. You need to get something straight and make sure that it crosses all 3 points. And you haven't done it like a laser. Just get a laser, shine it from one at the end to the other end, and see if it intersects the point in the middle. It will be that fucking simple.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure, go ahead.
Mike, there.
Spot on level, you've got a lot of audio bleeding.
Yeah, hot micing.
So you're very hot micing. Please mute yourself, or I have to server mute you for a minute.
Are you familiar? Are you now familiar?
Server mute him for us, will you? I'll get him to call. He can put a message in. There you go. Thanks.
Yeah.
Are you now familiar with communicating vessels?
Okay. What do you think the principle of communicating in level vessels says? Because I guarantee you it doesn't say what you think it is. Do you want me to look up what? No, I don't know what the principle of communicating vessels says.
I know you don't, but I think that would solve a lot of your anger issues.
Okay, would you like to explain it, or do you want me to look it up on Google?
Yeah, you
I would like for you to look it up. That'd be better for you to learn.
Okay.
It'd be better for you.
Yeah.
You might have heard it.
Don't rely on me.
But like just the principles of the shortest distance between the two extreme points.
Yes. So
showing that all points lie on that line.
This brings up a question of what do you guys think the same level means?
Horizontal. Level is horizontal. Level is a straight line on a horizontal plane.
So when you say when it says the same level, it means the same equipotential surfaces. Equipotential surfaces, as I have explained multiple times, are not straight lines. Can you please let the same level? Level is measured, elevation is measured relative to a geode, relative to a reference. The
mean
same
sea level.
Yes, and sea level is not constant. No, you're not measuring relative to the ground.
Mean sea level, Tony. Mean sea level.
The
average. Yeah.
What does mean sea level mean?
It's an average. It's the mean.
Okay, of what?
Of the levels of the sea. It goes up and down and up and down, and they take the mean.
That's right. And how is it measured?
Becomes your datum, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Would you be astonished to find out that mean sea level does not correspond to an equipotential surface?
It's horizontal. All reference changes for elevation are measured on the vertical. From that in the UK,
Nope.
Yep.
Absolutely not.
Oh, yep.
Mean sea level. If you're given that I am one of the top 20 people on the subject of sea level.
The top 20. That's why I said you're just the man we're after.
On the face of the planet, wow. I would suggest that you shut the fuck up and listen to what I have to say.
Well, come off the sea. We'll go in the canal and we'll talk about the static.
It turns out that there are dynamic components to sea level, dependent on
just do the water level,
prevailing.
Right. There's no tides or anything in our water level. 200, 100,
That's not
100,
true.
200.
That's not true. Your water level is completely susceptible to tides. The claim that tides do not affect your water level is completely false. Yes.
Nice.
It's small. It's a small effect. I will grant you that. But to say that it has no effect, absolutely untrue.
Nice. So, do you reckon we could time it?
No. And the reason I say that is because you don't really have a reference against which. This is the problem.
You can time the tides, can't you? You don't think they'd be in tune with those tides, do you?
Yeah.
Do you?
Yes.
You think the water levels in a water level have a tide to them?
Though it will be too small for you to detect.
But what if you could detect something like a 50 millionth of an inch or something like that?
With 50 millionth of an inch, you could probably detect that.
Nice.
If you were sampling.
See, there's another reason for us to get them, and it'd be really cool. That.
If you would, but I mean, there comes a point, where you're butting up against the fact that, quantum mechanics is a thing, right? There's a limit on accuracy, right? When you're trying to determine where the boundary of an atom is or a molecule, it's not entirely well defined. So once you get to small enough length scales, you're basically pulling shit out of your ass, right? I mean, you can't measure that sort of accuracy.
Technically, is that a scientific term?
But yeah, it's a scientific term. Trust me on that one. You can use it with any scientist you meet in person, and they will understand what you're talking about. So the problem is you need, so if you shone a light, let's label.
Do you like the idea of the principle of it though? The shared straight line segment, just showing a basic simplest.
Well, so actually, so if my first impression of this experiment is that it will give exactly the same results on a sphere as on a flat Earth, unless you apply some external control to determine that all 3 points are actually at the same are in a straight line, are on a straight line segment. So you need some external control. So if you could run a laser from spigot A to spigot
Euclidean
C,
principles. Do you not like them for the simplicity of it?
No, I don't like them because you're making the assumption that in applying Euclidean principles, you are assuming a shape for the Earth. You are presupposing.
No, we're just showing the straight
yes,
line.
You are. Yes, you are. You are assuming. The 3 points are in a straight line.
Geometric.
You haven't demonstrated it.
We have noticed there's a lot of people that get really upset about it and talk about the Earth.
For fuck's sake, will you listen?
Because it's water.
Will you listen?
It's water.
Will you listen?
Wow.
You need to prove that the equipotential surfaces.
That was good. Wow, yeah.
Okay. So, are you at all interested in what I have to say, or are you just going to contradict me whenever I say something?
Please don't get triggered, and it's got nothing to
No,
anything you hold dear or anything your deities.
That wasn't my question. No, I don't have any deities. I don't have any religious beliefs, and you don't need
to bring the Earth into it, right? Because this is definitely a water level geometric.
Yes, except that the geometry of water level depends on the shape of equipotential surfaces.
No, it's got nothing. The water level has nothing to do with what's underneath it. And no, it doesn't.
Okay, you can assert that. You're wrong, but you can believe it to your heart's content.
Geometric principles.
And this conversation is over. This conversation is over now.
Is it?
I'm telling you, you're wrong.
Oh, that's a pity.
You don't believe me. You won't listen to me when I explain why you're wrong.
About geometric principles.
So, you're wrong. It's not just a geometric principle. It's a matter of the geometry of the equipotential surface. Oh. You are assuming that an equipotential surface is...
That's what I told you at the beginning. We're assuming
so
Euclidean
you're not interrupting
geometry.
me. You're just interrupting me all the fucking time. Every time I start explaining to you that it is the geometry of the equipotential surface that matters, you keep on saying, "Well, fuck it, Euclidean geometry."
Yeah, is that not Euclidean?
No,
you
the
use
equipotential surface is not a straight line. The equipotential surfaces are not straight lines.
But just in between those 2
How
points.
many times? No, not even between those 2 points. Not between any 2 points.
It's not a straight line.
No, not that coincides with an equipotential surface.
Is it hump or drop?
There's no such thing as a hump or a drop as far as equipotential surfaces are concerned, because they're all equipotential. None of them, in that sense, is higher or lower than the other ones.
Oh. So it wouldn't be a measured change in the vertical, establishing an elevation change?
No. Elevation is relative to the equipotential surface. The equipotential surface is curving over the distance that you are measuring on. This is why your observation, your setup, fails to distinguish. Now, I'm not saying that your observation...
That's all I know about.
Yes, it's only Euclidean principles if you assume that the equipotential surface is planar. The equipotential surface is not planar. Therefore, Euclidean principles do not apply.
A water level or even any level are a tool for establishing a horizontal plane.
You need an external validation of the linear connection between you know what? Fuck it. Don't believe me. Go ahead.
But
an
auto level is a tool for establishing a horizontal plane of reference.
Great. Publish. Go ahead. Write it up.
I don't need to. That's what it does, Tony.
Okay. No, it doesn't. Oh. You're misinterpreting your experimental results, and you won't listen to me when I am explaining it to you. So go ahead.
No, I was just saying a level is a tool for establishing a horizontal.
Piece your life away. Piece your life away, Bev. Go ahead. Fucking pursue this phantom, fantastic, absolutely unrealistic nonsense to your heart's content, because I can think of only a few people that I would wish this fate on more than I currently wish it on you.
Wow, that changed.
Because you are fucking shitting your existence down the crapper.
Is this you speaking for science, or is you speaking?
Yes, this is me speaking for science.
Scientific peer review of a geometrical concept.
Yes,
practical geometry.
This is peer review of you are pissing your life away. You are wasting your fucking existence on this planet.
Just a carrot, Tony. It's okay.
You are just throwing your time down the fucking toilet. And why not? Something? You do you. Go ahead. Do that. Go ahead.
All right. Good morning, Bev.
Good morning, Redmond.
I just wanted to say good morning to everyone. That's it. I mean, it doesn't have to be like
Go
this.
ahead.
I said good morning.
Yes, good morning to you. Whoever you are, good sir. I wish you the very best. In fact, I wish you more than the very best. I wish that you prosper more than average during this day. And if you happen to be victim to flat eartherism, just throw it the fuck away. It's worthless. It's destroying you. It's destroying Bev. You could become like Bev.
Level is horizontal is what I'm saying. Tony, what are you doing?
Nobody's trying to put you out of a job.
I know. Nobody's going to come to you fuckers and ask you to model the orbits of a satellite. Trust me, I'm pretty fucking confident. I am confident about that. Yeah. And I've represented my country multiple times at Mind Sports.
Yeah.
So I know I'm not fucking stupid. I know I'm a dick. I know I'm short-tempered.
Yeah.
But that doesn't change reality, right? None of that changes.
What was the Mind Sport, Tony?
You've got a lot of
the Mind Sport was actually the game of Go, if you're familiar with that. The Chinese call it Wei.
Wrapped up into this.
The Chinese call it Wei Chi. The Koreans call it Baduk. It's played with black and white stones on a 19 by 19 grid.
How did you place?
So you place stones on intersections.
No, how did you place when you represented your country?
Not that well, I admit, but I was up against Chinese and Koreans and Japanese, and yes, I didn't do as well on the global ratings. I placed near the middle.
Damn, they were smarter than you, huh?
No, they knew Go better than I did. I mean, I started playing Go when I was 19, 20. They started playing Go when they were 4. And there's a lot
like Super Mario Kart. Starting young
to
get really good at it.
Well, yes. It turns out that in terms of physical or mental skills, the ages between 12 and 15 or 11 and 15 are actually critical. If you learn something between the ages of 11 and 15, you will remember it for the rest of your life.
Yeah,
But
logic.
if you
It's a
learn
good
it
one,
right,
isn't it?
Yes, I learnt logic quite earlier, and for instance, I learnt how to
Euclidean
solve a
geometry
Rubik's
taught
cube.
me logic.
Yeah, you understand that on a curved surface like a sphere, Euclidean geometry is of limited utility, right?
Euclidean geometry states that a sphere is a three-dimensional solid object.
No.
So Euclidean geometry actually defines the sphere for you. So you know what a sphere is.
No, it doesn't.
Absolutely, yes, it does.
What?
No, it doesn't.
Oh my fuck.
So here's the thing, Bev. You don't understand non-Euclidean geometry, so you might want to back off about what non-Euclidean
Is that a
geometry
you don't
does or
understand
does not
fallacy?
do. Yes.
Well,
Except for the fallacy part. You don't understand non-Euclidean geometry. So don't claim that spheres only work in Euclidean geometry. That's not true.
Wait, spheres are 2D then?
Spheres are Euclidean.
The surface of a sphere is a two-dimensional object.
I didn't know how 2 dimensions can have depth. That's the thing. I don't get it.
Then they don't. That's the glorious thing about the surface of a sphere. It doesn't have depth.
Yeah, we've been over this.
Thank you. Yeah.
Therefore, it's two-dimensional.
The sphere is a two-dimensional sphere is a circle.
This is what we don't understand about Euclidean geometry not being what it is.
Let me review, for the benefit of those who came in late, the dimension of a vector space is the number of basis vectors required to uniquely define each and every element of that space. We can define every point on the surface of a sphere using 2 variables, latitude and longitude. Therefore, the surface of a sphere is a 2-dimensional space.
Wow.
End of lesson.
Okay, I have a question?
Yes.
So if I have a square tabletop and I only mention or I only measure the length of it, does that mean it's 1 dimension?
No, because you cannot uniquely define every point on the tabletop using 1 dimension. Do you not understand the term uniquely define each point in the space?
Yeah, what if I want to put a screw underneath of it?
Yes, you still need to define where you're going to put the screw.
Do you know where a point is defined? Tony.
Who are you asking that question to, Ben?
You.
Yes, I do.
Where?
It is defined
for the benefit
as
of everybody else. Do you know where it was defined? Yes.
Sorry, can you define what you mean by where?
It's in Euclidean elements.
No,
it is the first
not true.
definition within the definitions of the axiomatic system that makes up Euclidean geometry. You're just going to go, no, not that.
Nope. You're wrong.
There were people before Euclid, you know.
Yeah, there were people before Euclid and there were people after Euclid.
Yeah, a point is defined it within the axiomatic system called geometry. Euclidean geometry. Yes.
So what level have you studied geometry to, Bev? Because I studied geometry
super basic.
Up until honours. Okay, so I studied geometry up until honours level at university. So I'm going to maintain that I know more about geometry than you do.
You just go, that geometry, don't you?
And so, I'm saying there are multiple geometries. There is a Euclidean
and I'm saying
geometry.
I fully understand Euclidean geometry and the principles and everything contained within it, and you say not that.
Do you though?
Yeah.
Do you understand the relationship between? So imagine a chord at the center of an angle. Imagine a chord within an angle, within a circle. Sorry.
Yeah.
What is the relationship between the angle subtended by that chord at the center of the circle and the angle subtended by that chord on the circumference of the circle?
That would be an end to a means, so he could define a segment within the circle. And the angle of that segment between two straight lines, yeah.
No, that is incorrect.
It's an axiomatic way for him to get to that angle that he can measure.
No, that is completely incorrect. So your claim that you completely understand Euclidean geometry has just been shown to be what? False. The angle subtended by a chord at the center of a circle is double the angle subtended at the circumference of the circle by a chord. Go and look it up. And while you're doing that, the rest of us can go back to actually learning something about geometry.
Did you say at the center?
Yes.
At the chord. Where would the center at the chord, the angle of that be measured to? I mean,
I explained it perfectly well.
But the center of the chord would be the center of a straight line.
Well, it'd be the shortest distance between 2 points, too, right?
The chord.
So you're all retarded then.
Okay, but you do realise that straight line isn't even an angle because it says within the thing it's not on the same straight line.
As opposed to the center of the circle.
Yeah.
You understand the distinction between a chord and a circle. We're not talking about spheres.
Between the two, yeah. One of them's a straight line and the other one's a circle.
Conversation. Piss the fuck off. I'm done. I'm done with being. I'm done. I'm done with. I'm done with being.
I thought we had a thing going.
I want everybody. You know, so if you're not following the conversation, if you are not following the conversation, let me repeat for the fourth fucking time. Listen. Shut up and listen to the words I am using. The relationship between the angle subtended by a chord within a circle at the center of the circle and on the circumference of the circle. And as an extra bonus, I'm going to let you know that it doesn't matter what point you choose on the circumference of the circle. It's always going to be equal out there.
Your teaching method needs a bit working on.
What is the relationship between those two angles? Go!
Wow. You're setting us a challenge. Can you repeat it
and
for
you
us?
Just failed. You claim to be a man.
We'll listen back to
that was the third time. That was the third time I explained it to you, and you didn't bother. You didn't bother fucking paying attention to any of them.
Character this. I like this.
Do you just
should bring this guy out a bit more?
I like how he elongates his words when he's yelling too.
Do you just not bother to listen?
Do you get tired,
Is that
Tony?
the secret?
So it does sound drains you. Like your battery fills up and then you out and then you sound like you really put effort into it.
Even while I'm tired, I'm at least not fucking stupid. You know, that's the comforting element of this. At least while I am exhausted, I know basic fucking geometry. And that's where I draw comfort from.
Would that be Euclidean?
No, it wouldn't.
Basic Euclidean geometry.
I know that as well, but I know more. Is that
different than normal basic?
What kind of geometry do you draw comfort from?
all kinds of geometry because I understand all kinds of geometry. Thank you for asking the question, though. Well done, you.
You're accepting of all
What about
kinds
flat
of
Earth
geometry.
Sorry, I'm accepting of all sorts of geometry. Was that?
He said, "Yeah,
I'm accepting of geometries that have mathematical validity."
What about flat Earth geometry?
Completely inconsistent with the observations.
Okay. Didn't you call Euclidean geometry flat Earth geometry?
Thank you.
No.
No? I think you did.
No. What I said was you're assuming that the geometry of the Earth is Euclidean.
No, you said your flat Earth geometry.
No, I said you are assuming that the geometry of the Earth is Euclidean, and it is not.
I don't think so. No.
Well, given we have previously established how reliable you are at hearing, at interpreting and reciting what has been said to you.
Okay. I got the 3 times 180.
What is flat Earth geometry, by the way?
I don't know. You'll have to ask. You'll have to ask Ranty.
Ranty?
Yeah, he apparently knows. Well, and you, Bev, I'm assuming you know what flat Earth geometry is.
I'm still trying to find the book of optics that he wrote. So,
Ranty. Yeah, he might be in there with his flat Earth geometry
to ask people stuff.
You know, the reality is that the observational evidence available to us is completely inconsistent with a flat Earth. I will state this over and over again, and I will show the evidence as I have previously done, showing that this is the case. And I will keep on doing it. And given that you guys can't even produce a single piece of evidence showing that the Earth is flat, other than I think it's flat.
We're not bothered about Earth shape, right? We never have been, Tony. You're obsessed.
Well, evidently you are. You're just a liar.
We're just doing practical geometry, Tony. You
well,
seem to have a problem with it.
Okay, so your practical geometry is completely in accord with the spheroidal Earth. Well done, Bev.
Yeah, Euclidean geometry. That was great.
It just works in real life.
Well, either way, the observations that you're making are completely in accord with either a flat Earth geometry or a spheroidal geometry, or indeed any geometry of the geoid. Any geometry of the geoid, it's not a false dichotomy.
Sure, you said it's
every fucking equipotential surface geometry, your observations are going to be exactly the fucking same. You've got no resolving power. You cannot tell the difference between different equipotential surfaces using what you're looking at. And you can't. Suck it up, princess, and move on.
I have also represented my country multiple
Why are you calling me princess? I mean,
there are people.
Well, actually, I admit that that's a bit of a Nathan Oakley. That's a bit of a Nathan Oakley.
I called you a
I'm sorry. Okay, I apologize for calling you princess. I admit that was uncalled for. I slipped into character. I was wishing I was yelling at Nathan Oakley.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you accused, I think, me of. I don't know. There's like a lot of stuff you're shotgunning there.
So what?
Yeah, he called you. What's up?
Oh, yeah,
that was fucking awful. Imagine that.
No, I think, yeah. Sorry about that. I apologize.
Simon Dan. How do you like that?
How dare you? How dare you? Excellent. Yeah. Genuinely, I do apologize for confusing you with WhatsApp, because that is an egregious insult, and I unreservedly, I fucked up there.
That's like the second thing I've agreed with that you said all night.
Okay, all right. Well, I apologize again, unreservedly. I fucked up. So my mistake.
No problem, Simon Dan.
Oh, he's triggering me. He's vexing me.
Look at that.
I see it.
He's watching you.
Anyway, like, so you've gone to the trouble of doing this experiment, and I appreciate the effort that you're putting into it. But from my perspective, this experiment lacks resolving power in distinguishing between different geometries of the equipotential surface. Using your results, you cannot tell if the equipotential surface is planar or spheroidal or some other weird shape just on these results. You need something like a straight line that is going to pass through each of these levels. So a laser or something like that you can get to shine exactly through each, from the first of your levels to the third of your levels, coinciding with the top of the level in between. If you can do that, then you've achieved something remarkable. There are multiple ways of explaining it. You need to be able to do this everywhere in order to show that the geoid is flat.
Yeah, we're going to be doing our test all over the place, Tony. Do you want to come and scream at us when we're doing it next time?
So, I would love to. I mean, I can think of few things that would be more enjoyable to me at the moment. But Australia, at the moment, we're thinking about having international travel back online by 2024. So unless it's strictly necessary that I travel overseas, I'm not going fucking anywhere at the moment. So apologies.
I don't want to ask you. You could get together and team up and do it on your side, right?
Well, I mean,
get together.
Good luck getting into Australia. You need to pay. If you come to Australia, they're going to throw you in a hotel for 2 weeks and make you fucking pay for it.
It's all right.
It sounds terrible.
Yeah.
Well, they're going. You're not going to be allowed out of your hotel room, and they're going to make you pay for everything for that 2 weeks. So it's a bit of
like a vacation. Sounds like a vacation to me.
Yeah.
Except you're not allowed out of your room ever, right?
You can look out of the room to get a good signal.
Yeah, you can do stuff like you can, clearly access to the internet.
We don't have to come over there to do the principles of this test.
Well,
right? Anyone can do it wherever
That's true.
they want.
I can film myself yelling in the middle of a field, and just you can edit it in and assume I'm there.
No, we do it live on Discord, Tony. You could come in the channel as we're doing it and scream mad at us while we're doing it.
The problem is that there are a couple of sources of error in your observation, but even leaving those aside, the best you're going to do is come up with your water levels are following, and they're. Well, no, that's not what I think you're coming up with. And I mean, you can assert that you're coming up with a straight line segment, but that's not how I interpret.
Dueling assertions.
Yeah, so my interpretation is that he's coming up with 3 points that are equal potential. And so the relationship of those points to one another depends on the shape of the equipotential surface, which under the experiment, as I understand it, you have made zero effort to independently ascertain.
It's not an experiment.
If you want to, then let's call it an observational campaign. Let's call it an observational campaign instead.
We also call it a vocal campaign, if you're there, sir.
What? A vocal campaign? No, we can call it, cranky old man goes apeshit campaign if I'm there. That's
the name of Blue. If you're recording this, that's the name of the video right there.
Okay. So,
if you enjoyed the content, please support On the Level and future projects. Membership subscriptions available now, or come and get involved at Next Level Discord server. Thank you.